is Emma, and we are here with the wonderfully amazing Sam Gardiner, Tilt Product Manager. And, let's kind of hop right into this discussion of how complex leave is for HR leaders across the country. And what, I guess, where we can start would be, what do you think are the actual biggest challenges that HR teams face when it comes to managing leave, and how does Tilt attempt to simplify that?
Yeah. Leave is so complicated, especially here in the United States, where we have the federally mandated FMLA, but then we also have state regulations in many states, but not all. And keeping track of those I think the most challenging part for most HR teams is managing all of the different policies in all of the different states if you've got workers that are spread across many different states, and then understanding how employee tenure and other employee demographic information ends up determining eligibility for the various state and federal benefits. And so, I think that's probably the most complicated part. We're also seeing a rise in remote workers and distributed workforces. Obviously, Tilt meets the needs of remote workers and really helps with that employee population. And I think with the rise of a remote workforce, Tilt becomes even more valuable when, as HR, I don't have to learn the policies in all of these different states. I can outsource that part of understanding leave law and really let Tilt do what it's best at while focusing on having a great employee experience instead.
And on a day-to-day level, how would you explain maybe the difference between how HR might have to respond to managing leave without a solution like Tilt, like they're going about their day, then all of a sudden leave request comes in, and what that's like with Tilt in place?
Yeah. I will give a little anecdote from my own leave experience. And this is all this wonderful HR human whom I love dearly and think is incredible at her job. Maybe 2 weeks before I went out on leave, I got a single email that said, here are all the things that you need to do to get ready to go on your leave, with a bulleted list of 30 things that I needed to make sure that I did. And then we had a single 30-minute meeting to discuss what it was that I needed to do. And then, of course, after I had my baby, I had a bunch of questions because I was finally back to reality and recognizing, I actually have to do the things on this list. And that was it was in a state that did not have state benefits. So that was just trying to handle a basic employee going out on lovely company-sponsored FMLA covered leave. Pretty basic scenario, and still was a huge amount of this HR person's time back and forth answering questions, when her real job, her full-time job that she was also doing, was all of our company benefits, our company payroll, working on helping with hiring. Just a huge portion of her job was not leave. And every person at our company who took leave also had to go through her, also had to receive in a timely manner a bulleted list of the various things that an employee has to do, and then back and forth answering all of these employee questions at a time when employees are not, I certainly wasn't thinking totally straight or really meticulous in the days and weeks leading up to and following the birth of my first child. I was all over the place. And I think back with great fondness and empathy to this HR person who was trying her very best to manage what she thought was going to be a really easy routine leave. And it was, but for me, it didn't feel easy and routine. And I had a million questions that she assured me repeatedly would all be fine, but I still had to go back and ask her 40 times to just make sure that I did everything right and that it felt fine. And so I think in a non-Tilt world, to generalize that experience a little bit, in a non-Tilt world, HR is the center of the leave. Every single employee question goes through them, and employees who just need that little bit of extra, you've got it, everything's fine, you're good to take your leave, you've done what you need to do, assurance, those employees also have to go through HR and have all of those conversations via their HR team member. Whereas with Tilt, one, employees get a pretty nice list of these are the things you have to do. The list tells them when they need to do it, and it tells them when they can start it. Because there are some things we know, you can't apply for short-term disability way in advance. You have to wait until you're really close to needing short-term disability before you apply, or they're going to reject you. And then you have to go through an appeals process, and it becomes an ordeal. So Tilt is great about telling employees what they need to do, when they need to do it, telling them that they should wait, in fact, to do certain things. Employees can also pretty clearly in our tech understand what it is that they're going to be paid while they're out on leave, which is a huge other source of employee inbound questions for HR is and would be for me as well. What will I be paid? Will I be getting a paycheck? When will I be getting my paycheck? How does that pay break down from these different sources? I think, alleviate just all of the questions that would normally go to HR about a leave and let HR focus on just checking in with that employee. Are you feeling good? Are you excited? Or are you nervous? How are you emotionally? And then also focus on the other parts of their job that aren't leave related. HR is an incredibly busy and incredibly challenging role in any company. And so if we can take the burden of managing leaves and really being the conduit for all leaves in the business off of our HR team members, we want to do that.
I love that you preface your story with the fact that your HR manager at the time was like a lovely, very capable, great person, because that's the reality of it, right? That these are all very well-intentioned people, very capable people. We're not trying to say, oh, you can't do it without Tilt. It's that we want to help you do it because we want you like to ease this part of your job. We want to take the stress away. And I think that's pretty cool.
So with leave of absence in particular, there's a lot of moving pieces. And as you've described, HR is going to want to know kind of everything that's going on, but maybe not be like super involved. So it's kind of like a blend, would you say, of like, they still want to have control over and see what's going on. Everything's done for them, but they still have the oversight of like what's happening. Can you explain how Tilt kind of like navigates that and why that's particularly important? Like Tilt's not removing them from the process, they just are removed from the busy work. Is that, I guess, maybe the way to describe it?
Yeah, that's spot on. I think we end up in this wonderful place where customers who want to be really hands off, we do have some HR teams that say we trust Tilt and Tilt manages all of our leaves, and we really are only involved if there is an issue, a dispute, or a big employee question that requires us to clarify our policies or something like that. But otherwise, Tilt is fully in the driver's seat, and Tilt is the one that's making sort of all of the calls around the leave unless they need to be escalated to an HR person at that team. On the flip side, we have customers who are highly involved and they want to use our software to power their leave management process, but they are super engaged with the employee experience and they want employees to feel comfortable starting with them. So some of our customers, a leave gets put in by HR first. HR is the center of that leave and HR keeps a really careful eye on everything that's going on with it. Some customers have processes around when they check in with employees in addition to the Tilt layer. So there's lots of different versions of this that we've seen. But when we're constructing the product, we want to make sure that HR can see all of the interactions, can understand all of the things that have happened with the leave over the course of the sort of history of the leave, and are kept up to date with changes to the leaves if they want to. So we've got the ability for HR to click into the employee plan and see all of the same things that the employee sees if they want to get a really deep dive into what is going on with this leave, what's the status, what is the employee missing, what steps have they not done yet. They can also click into our activity feed on a per leave basis and see the whole record of every single thing that has happened with that leave if they want that level of granularity. HR teams that have a little bit, they want to have a kind of pulse on what's going on, but they don't need to be zooming into every leave. Those teams have a dashboard for kind of getting a high level overview of what leaves are active right now, what leaves are upcoming. And then they can see through our leave data export all of the intermittent time off blocks that an employee might be taking. They also have the ability to look at certain parts of the leave just easily on the fly out. So if they're reviewing kind of that high level dashboard of a leave and they want to just get a little bit more insight, but they don't want to go into great detail, they can just quickly kind of get a snapshot of the leave from our leave flyout. So I think and then also we have the proactive notification through the daily leave summary where we're saying to every HR team member, here are the things that have changed about your leaves. Here are the things that you might need to know. Who's starting leave today? Who's ending leave today? What are the various time off updates that are happening? All sorts of stuff. So there's a way for HR to see as much detail as they want, to see exactly the same view that the employee sees, to be able to write notes if they want to back to the Tilt Leave Success Manager to record certain information, kind of the leave record, all within the technology, but also they can, if they want to, truly say, we're not the center of this leave, and employees until work it out and just let me know if you need me. And we have customers that really are on either extreme, and we love to support and think through when we're building products, both of those personas, and make sure that we're enabling both personas to be successful with the technology.
That's great. I feel like that's definitely a differentiator for Tilt, being able to service either one of those people, because there definitely are the ones that I think that that's kind of a barrier to entry for themselves, right? Of, I don't want to give up this part of my job because I value the employee experience, or it's important to me to have a little bit of control. What do you feel like the future of those type of capabilities are for Tilt, as far as making sure HR can have control when they want to, as well as just the transparency aspect of it, of being able to see everything they need to see all in one place?
Yeah, I think that we can imagine enhanced employee HR dashboards that do a better job of communicating than we're doing today, of communicating high level information and also giving bigger leave insights. That's something I'm really excited about working on someday in the future. It'd be really amazing if we could offer that next level of, okay, this past year, what does your leave data look like? What is that benchmarked against the average Tilt customer? What are your policies your leave policies like benchmarked against maybe customers of similar demographic or in a similar industry? Things like that I think are really interesting. I'm not promising that we're doing any of that stuff, but I think that there's a lot of opportunity to not only give HR good visibility into leave statistics and leave data at a higher level, but also to empower them to think through whether their policies are serving their needs, whether their policies are the right ones for them, whether their policies align with their industry or customers of a similar size. I also think that we're seeing a lot of really interesting things with AI, and we're thinking through as a product team how AI is going to impact what we do. We are very cautious about security, and we're very cautious about compliance. And so, we are very thoughtful to always have a human in the loop with these kinds of AI decisions. And I think that AI poses a really interesting solution to some of the problems in the leave space, perhaps answering employee questions someday, perhaps helping with HR compliance questions, just maybe providing a first layer someday once we've gotten that really refined. I also think that we have an opportunity to consider how we make the employee experience a little bit more interpretable and understandable. So we're very familiar with leave, and I think our product does do a great job of helping employees feel comfortable and have it feel really usable to employees up front. But I think there's an opportunity to do a little bit better, like embedded employee education right within our product, and maybe upfront education, because I know that we have an employee population where they're not ready to take a leave of absence yet, but they're thinking about maybe the need for leave. Maybe they have a chronic health condition that they've just been diagnosed with. Maybe they are starting family planning and they're thinking about what it would mean to bring a baby into their family. And when we think about that employee, we're not today serving that employee yet, that employee who's curious what leave options might be available to them, what they might be eligible for. So I think that's a really interesting addition to the space that would help alleviate that burden on HR, because we know today that our HR teams are the ones that are educating their employees about what policies are available at their company, what state benefits they might be eligible for before that leave ever gets to Tilt. So that's another area that I'm really interested in, helping to save HR teams time and helping employees to have an even better leave experience.
So if I was in HR and that was my role, what would be, I think this is a question I've always been curious about as a product user, not a someone who creates the product. What's the best way to provide either feedback or suggestions? Because I feel like that's something that I've done a lot, and sometimes it lands and sometimes it doesn't. So if you had an opportunity to and you do right now, to talk to HR through this screen and say, if you would if there's something that you have an idea about of how to make the leave of absence experience better, these are the things that would be helpful for us to know to kind of get that ball rolling?
Oh my goodness. If you have product ideas that you've been sitting on or big feature enhancements that you'd love to see Tilt make, we would love for you to communicate that stuff directly with your customer success manager, and or consider writing an email into the customer success team broadly. We also would love to, I am an open door, and while I won't volunteer my email here, I would say when customers have big ideas, I will do exploratory meetings with our customers, even if I don't plan on working on that feature for many months or even years. It's helpful to start to sort of plant the seeds of directions where Tilt could evolve over time. And some of our best ideas come out of those little conversations that happened 8 months ago that we're finally in a position to really be able to work on that thing. And I've held on to that conversation for all of this time. So really implore us to all be thinking about ways that we can empower employees to have a great leave experience, make HR teams' lives easier. And we are here to hear that feedback. First and foremost, your customer success manager is the right person to go to with those ideas. And I would also say that a piece of information that often gets lost when we hear feature enhancement requests that I would love to see more frequently surfaced is, why is this thing a problem? Or what is the problem that that feature is trying to solve? Because sometimes a specific feature idea it may not gel completely with the direction that we're planning on taking part of the product, or it may not fit with our mission and vision to do that very specific thing. But if we have a good understanding of why that thing is a problem and how solving that problem will save HR time or make the employee experience better, we can do our job, which is to think about not just the specific enhancement idea, but how do we alleviate that pain and solve that problem? And the way we solve that problem might not always be the exact way that it was articulated in the feedback. And I think that's good development and that's good sort of product practice, but it is so important for us to hear the why behind it. And I feel like so often we miss that really important context. So if I could ask anything of our HR partners, it would be to not only give us your specific feature ideas, because we want those, but we also would love to hear, what problem does this solve? How does this make life better for your users?
You heard it here first. We're going to drop Sam's personal cell phone number on this. Reach out.